Welcome to Spoken Injustice, where we put the criminal justice system in the dock. Today's video is part of our trial and features 4 live witnesses. So buckle up and follow us until the end. But before calling our witnesses to our imaginary stand, and by way of background for the benefit of those who have just joined us, we want to reiterate the mission of our trial. Our mission is to humanize wrongful convictions. We do not want to tell their stories as another case. We want to hear from them with the power of their own voice. You can find out more details about our trial in the video now showing up on the screen. The consequences of wrongful convictions are unimaginable, not only for those wrongly convicted, but also for those in their close circle. It is in this context that we consider primary and secondary victims of wrongful convictions as our expert witnesses. They are best positioned to tell us about the consequences of wrongful convictions. That is when someone is convicted of a crime they did not commit, or even worse, of a crime that did not exist. Let's not forget that there have been cases of suicides turned into homicides, consensual sex turned into rape, accidental fire turned into arson, and conspiracies conjured where there was none. So, as I said, our mission is to humanize wrongful convictions. What does that mean? Perhaps a good way to illustrate this is by showing you a segment of a video published in February 2023 on the TEDx YouTube channel, in which Pamela Glatt, Director of Education at Innocence Canada, told TEDx how her way of teaching about wrongful convictions changed when she met a wrongfully convicted individual. Let's take a look.
Christine opened up her talk by walking us through the day she got out of prison. She had walked out into the prison lobby and went into the washroom there before leaving the prison. When she tried to turn on the faucet in the washroom, she couldn't figure out how to turn it on. She had to ask her brother to come in and help her. You see, the faucet was automatic. In 1996, when she went into prison, faucets were manual. It was now 2012. And in that moment, the way in which I understood wrongful convictions and the way in which I teach about wrongful convictions completely changed. Because what I was seeing, what I was hearing, this was the human side to a wrongful conviction.
Indeed, we want you to experience the human side of wrongful convictions. Before calling in our first witness of today, here are my usual reminders. To like this video if you're finding it useful, and subscribe if you want us to continue bringing to you real-life testimonies on consequences of wrongful convictions. Thank you. In 2017, Brian Buckle was convicted of a series of historical child sex offences said to have occurred between 1993 and 1996 and related all to the same complainant. He was sentenced concurrently to 33 years in prison to be served over a period of 15 years. In 2022, the Court of Appeal found his conviction unsafe and consequently quashed it. Following a 2-week retrial in May 2023, Brian was found not guilty at Swansea Crown Court by an unanimous jury in a deliberation that lasted just over 4 hours. We met Brian Buckle on Falsely Accused Day, 9th of September 2023, at Victoria Embankment in London. We now call Brian Buckle to give evidence as a primary victim of a wrongful conviction. He promised us that he has told us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. We asked Brian to tell us his story in his own words and with the power of his own voice. This is what he told us.
So my name's Brian Buckle. I was convicted in 2017 for 16 charges against a child. Sentenced to 33 years to serve 15 years with a 7-year parole. In 2022, I went to the appeal courts and I was instantly released from the appeal courts for wrongful conviction. And then in May 2023, 19th of May, 2023, I went through a retrial for 3 weeks and I was found innocent of all 16 charges. So it's been a roller coaster for me and my family. But if the police and the prosecution had done their jobs properly in the first place, the information that was used in my retrial was available for my trial in 2017. I would have never been convicted in the first place anyway.
We asked Brian what his legal representation entailed and how it was funded.
So we proved all the lies, we proved all the forensics. We found a barrister in London who worked very hard to get all the information, and it was all funded by ourselves. So it's been funded from day one, from 2017 when I was accused, right the way through to 2023. Which has basically at this today cost us just around £500,000. Well, financially we are on the breadline. We're lucky our house was paid for. I lost my job, which I was a construction manager. I was well paid for that. But in the meantime, to fund it, my father passed away in yeah, my dad passed away in 2016. He left me money we had to use that then to fund part of it. When I was in prison then, my nan passed away. She left me a little bit of money which was used to fund it. My family, my mum, my auntie and stuff, we've had to ask them to borrow money off them to fund it. And Elaine's dad, who left all the siblings money before he passed away, we've had to use all that money to fund it.
We asked Brian whether he applied or was eligible for compensation.
We've applied for it online ourselves, but we have been told through our barrister that we most probably won't get it because we don't meet the threshold. So at the moment we don't know what we're going to get in, or if we're going to get anything or whatever. But yeah, so no, we don't know.
We asked Brian how long he spent in prison and what was his experience there.
I spent 5.5 years in prison. Oh, horrendous. So yeah, I spent a year and a half in Park in Bridgend, and then I spent 4 years in Stafford. Well, in Park, it was so it's a mixed prison, so it's mains and VPs they call them, so vulnerable people. But yeah, when you used to go to the gym, all the mains boys would shout stuff and all that. But Stafford was a full sex offenders prison, so but it's just being in there with people who are guilty and day to day, where I just kept myself to myself. I never bothered with people. Just kept myself to myself and got on with it the best I could.
We asked Brian how he's coping now.
Well, horrendous. I've been out 12 months now, and I've just, well, funny enough, yesterday I had my first counselling session because I couldn't get counselling, so because there was nobody out there to help. I've been diagnosed with PTSD through the doctor, so yeah, it's a nightmare. I'm a totally different person to what I was before I went in, and it's affected our lives forever.
I hope you have found Brian's emotional testimony compelling. However, it seems now an appropriate time to call our secondary victims as our witnesses. First up is Jackie Morgan. She takes the stand as a secondary victim. Jackie, can you please state your full name and relationship with Brian Buckle?
My name is Jackie Morgan. I'm Brian Buckle's mother.
Can you please confirm that what you are about to tell us will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I will.
Can you please confirm that you will speak with power but with dignity? You will be honest but respectful. You will be direct but not offensive. You will say what you think, but you think what you say before you say it.
Yes, I will.
Can you tell us, please, in your own words, how Brian's accusations and convictions affected you?
Brian was convicted of a historic sexual crime. He did 5.5 years inside, which should have been 15 years term. This, when I was told originally by his accuser, shocked crime. But I felt sick and like my heart was being ripped out. Couldn't believe what was being told about what was supposed to have done to her. Now I feel, well, I had to go and have to the doctors for antidepressants, but I couldn't sleep. I found that the police had let me down. They let him down. They hadn't done the proper investigation. I believed them. I don't now. I don't trust the police at all. I doubts about his first barrister as well because he looked a bit cheapish, and it's like, to me, they made a deal with the prosecution against the, but I now, I mean, at the time, I just, why are they doing this to my son? He hasn't done anything. It's a load of lies, and you've got other people to lie as well. Perjury, and you're all lying on oath. Why would you do that against someone who's never done you any harm or hurt you? I mean, going to meet him is not like falling down the road and saying hi, but having to make the journey to travel. Sorry. having to make the journey and only see him once or twice a month, it's not an easy thing to do, knowing that you're leaving him in a place that he shouldn't be. Having nightmares about what was happening to him. Why would somebody do such a horrible thing against someone, who's only thought of their well-being, really? And I feel like, I don't know if I already said, but like my heart's been ripped out. And then why, I even felt like, can I take this place so that I didn't have to go through this? I'm trying not to get upset, but I can't. It's very hard, I think, for anyone, and myself, being in a position that your child has been accused. I know he's not a child now, but he is my son. Was accused of a horrible, horrible crime, which he didn't do, but he did do the time for it. Part of the time, didn't do the crime. I just feel spent 5.5 years, which he was convicted 15 years they gave him, and he spent 5.5 years, but it's only because we won the appeal, the Royal Court of Justice. The judges exonerated him, and it's out immediately. They sent him home straight away. He was freed. Sorry, I'm just going to get. I think it was the police to start with. I mean, they didn't check all the evidence, but to set somebody up for such a disgusting crime, I mean, they should do time for it. These accusers should do time for it. They definitely need to do the time. Whatever was given to the accused, they should have it. We're going to push the police now. We need to go to them and say to them, what are you going to do about this? Because it's a crime, what they done to my son, what they've done to all of our family. What they've done to take away 5.5 years of Brian's life, really, that we haven't been able to be with him, and he hasn't been able to be with his daughter, well, all of his family, his daughter, his wife, his sons. He hasn't been able to spend no home time with his loved ones. He's lost his father during this. His father passed away, his grandmother passed away, and his father-in-law passed away, so he's lost 3 of those during the time he's been inside. They've all broke their hearts. Father actually had a massive heart attack, so he passed away. And it's just, somebody is accountable for this, so they need to go. We need to press these police to do their job, go to these ones who committed perjury. There are people out there who's fact and fatso. They will put you on to people who, even barristers who may be in your area, who can help. But they will have some help out there for you to not go through this on your own. I mean, unfortunately, some of these accused people they've taken their own lives because they couldn't cope. And that's the sad thing about it, that they to do that. I mean, I think Brian at one time did think, my son did think at one time, and I said, you do that and they're going to go to victory. There's no way that we can prove it. You have to be there to tell your story. We can't tell what's happened to you. We can only assume it. You have to be there to tell everybody what's happened. And this person face to face, she couldn't even be in court without the board blocking her face off. She couldn't face him, not because he's supposed to have done something, it's because face to face, bare-faced lying, then, isn't it? It's bare-faced lying you're doing. So all of the witnesses, her witnesses, lied in court, had the border, couldn't face him, so why not? Even one of them had to stay in another room because they said, not going to court. If I do, I'll have to stay in another room on a link in court. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But it's because they can't face. They lied him inside through all this lying.
Jackie, can you tell us, please, if this experience has changed you? And if so, in what way?
Now we've been able to prove him an innocent man. He was exonerated last September and won his appeal then. And now he was found innocent in May this year. And he's home now after all this time. He's home. He's been proved innocent. We had the evidence that it was all set up from the beginning. I feel a lot better now. I mean, it's still thoughts of why did it ever happen? Why would somebody do such a horrible thing to someone? But I feel better in a way now. He's home. I can go and see him. He can come to me. We can talk about stuff, and it's still affecting all of us. Affecting me. It's changed me that I don't trust the justice system. I don't trust the police. There's definitely a big problem in there that they've got so many crimes, especially this one of a sexual nature. There's so many prisoners in there who shouldn't be in there, and yes, some have done it, but they need to investigate it better than they have been. And then the real victims will be, if they come forward then as a victim, only never. At least they've got a chance with these ones that are lying. Everybody's just thinks that everybody's lying then, but not all. It's very difficult. But they need to investigate everything instead of part of it. Especially, as you say, the police should do a better job. Investigate everything, the accuser and the accused. Show all the evidence. Not hide. Why hide it? I don't understand why they hide evidence from, the accused's evidence. It's so easy to point the finger at anybody. It could happen to anyone, unless it's happened to you. I even thought myself at one time when you see it on TV, oh, this one's done that. You think, oh, horrible. Never think about they could be innocent. Just leave the police. I believe the justice system. They've done the crime. They've done it. I don't know. I don't believe that at all now. We've got to have proper evidence. Now I feel like whoever this has happened to, they need to stick to their stories. It's not a story. Just say it how it is. Don't trust the police. They're not your friends. Just go to someone, and you need to have that balance that believes you. If they don't believe you, go to somebody else. It's their jobs to protect you. And if they don't believe you, I feel, if they can't believe that you're telling the truth and nothing but the truth, don't go there. And name, they keep the anonymity. Oh, I can't say the word. They either name them both, or they keep both of them. They don't say their names. They're not named till they've been proved. I think they should do it because they actually named my son. They put his name in the paper, his address in the paper, so anybody could go there. So there's nothing stopping anybody going there and hurting the rest of his family. They shouldn't do that. Okay, maybe you should name, but then you should name their accuser as well. Why not? Other people can come forward and say, well, this person has said this before about another one. You know, it's not the first time that this accused has accused somebody. So if they name them as well, someone can come forward for both parties and be there. Not rather than keep them anonymous. Okay, let them both. Let's hear both sides, everybody.
We now call Elaine Buckle as she takes the stand as a secondary victim. Elaine, can you please state your full name and relationship with Brian Buckle?
I'm Elaine Buckle and I am married to Brian.
Can you please confirm that what you're about to tell us will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Can you please confirm that you will speak with power but with dignity? You will be honest but respectful. You will be direct but not offensive. You will say what you think, but you think what you say before you say it.
Yes.
Can you please tell us in your own words how Brian's accusations and convictions affected you?
Well, in the beginning, it was really traumatic, devastation, not knowing what's happening, just wanted to bury my head in the sand and hope it would all go away. But life, you've just got to go with it. I'm sorry, it's so hard to talk about it. One of the worst things that affected me the most was when I had a phone call from the safeguarding officer to say that she'd be calling around to speak to my daughter Georgia, well, our daughter, and it was like we had shielded her from everything, and now I was going to have to let her know that someone was going to come and talk to her. Well, when I came off the phone, I just passed out. My sister Victoria was with me, and thankfully. And when I came round, we got Georgia into the living room with us, and we sat down, and we were all crying. My heart pounding, having to tell my 14-year-old daughter what the accusations were against her and her dad. So, she was pretty good, but it's affected her as well, us as a family. And that was just awful. So that was, to me, I know Brian was going through it, I was going through it, but to have to tell your daughter. And when the safeguarding officer came, I let them talk together, so I wouldn't put any words into George's mouth. And the safeguarding officer was really, grateful for that I just came away and let them carry on. So Georgia told them everything that she knew of her dad and how much she loved him and how we were a lovely family and all of that. So yes, that was the worst for me.
Elaine, can you please tell us if this experience has changed you, and if so, in what way?
Right. Well, you probably will not believe this, but it actually made me stronger, because all while it was going on, the investigations, it was like a year and a half before we finally went to court. Well, 2 years, a year and a half till we went to the plea hearing to hear that Brian had been charged with 11 offences. And then when we go to the plea hearing, the CPS have added another 5 charges. So all that was really hard to deal with. But when we went to the trial and Brian was put into prison on remand and had to come back to court then about 3 weeks later, and then he was sentenced, and that was devastation. And I thought, how am I going to get through this? How are me and Georgia going to cope without him? Anyway, I came home that night. I had to tell Georgia because Georgia hadn't come back for the sentencing, and to tell her that her dad had been given 33 years to do 15 years. And could be eligible for parole after 7, but obviously Brian was maintaining his innocence. He would never have got parole. So for the first day or so, it was just crying, didn't know where Brian had been taken because we weren't allowed to speak to him when they took him down. And then, I don't know, I woke, well, I didn't hardly sleep, to be honest with you, and I've slept on the settee the whole time Brian was in prison. I haven't been into bed. And I just woke up one morning and I thought, I can't be down. I've got to be strong for Brian. I've got to be strong for Georgia. And I remember just walking up to the shop and thinking, come on, you people, come and ask me questions. I met a few people that I knew and I approached them and I said, if you want to know the real story, and I started telling them there. And then I put my, I don't know whether you can call it anger, hurt, there's so many different emotions, but I became proactive. I joined falsely accused groups on social media. I then, after a year or so, set up my own social media group. So to write letters to all the establishments, and hence my group is called Falsely Accused Letters to the Establishments. I have 2 ladies who write letters because I'm not very good at that part. So they actually write, they actually do the Falsely Accused Day. So the 3 of us, well, and Daphne, who you will speak to after, she's another admin of it. And we've got 400 odd, which doesn't sound a lot, but every day there's more sort of coming and joining in and, you know, trying to think now. But we've just become proactive. We've put the hurt, the anger, the pain, the misery into doing something to fight back against the system. You know, like the Falsely Accused Day in London, it's a silent protest. It's not about shouting out, and we're there. We realise that there are men, women who are guilty of their crimes, and that's hard. But we've got our men, our families who've been sent to prison for crimes they haven't done. And that's who we have to support.
We now call Daphne John as she takes the stand as a secondary victim of a wrongful conviction. Daphne, can you please state your full name and relationship with Brian Buckle?
My name's Daphne John and I'm Brian's auntie.
Can you please confirm that what you are about to tell us will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Can you please confirm that you will speak with power but with dignity? You will be honest but respectful. You will be direct but not offensive. You will say what you think, but you think what you say before you say it.
Yes.
Can you tell us, please, in your own words, how Brian's accusations and convictions affected you?
Yes, I can tell you that it affected me in a way that I have never experienced in my whole life before. I wouldn't wish it on anybody else to go through that same experience. So the first time that I heard about Brian was when I read it in the newspapers. And that was his very first hearing, where they go and they do their plea, is it? They plead guilty, not guilty, whatever. And of course it came out in the local papers, and that was the first I ever knew of it. Because at the time he was led to believe that this case wouldn't go any further, so he didn't see any point in telling everybody. So my first concerns was like, oh my God, you know, what's my sister going to say when she sees this happening and reads this about her own son? And then I contacted them, and I just said, I can't believe what I've just read in the paper. Do you realise that this has gone out locally? Everybody's going to be talking about this. What on earth is going on? And of course, I had it explained to me. And next thing, I offered my help, because I've known Brian from a young child. He was brought up with my own children, and he's like a third son. So I knew him very well, and I could not believe that he would have been capable of doing anything like this. I know it's quite easy to say, oh, no, he couldn't do this, and you sort of believe, you know, the unbelievable. Anyway, I offered my help, and I went to court, and I sat through his court hearing at Crown Court, and to hear that and to go through it daily, it affected me terribly. And to see him taken away and locked up for something we knew he didn't do, the evidence that was read out was horrendous, but also the evidence given by the witnesses didn't match. It did not match any way, shape or form. His barrister, you could see, was a very, very poor barrister who was not questioning anything that was said. He never questioned anything. And even though I didn't know the full case, I questioned it. And I thought, why isn't he questioning it? And there was evidence there that we knew was not being shown to the courts, because the two barristers, I mean the defending barrister and the prosecution barrister, had agreed not to show a lot of the evidence. So that was their agreement, and they made sure that there was a conviction at the end of it. So it was very sad to see the whole thing falling in front of us, and we couldn't do anything about it. And when we came to the end of the court hearing and we saw the jury and they were giving their verdicts, to hear each count as a guilty verdict was, oh, well, I can't even describe what that felt like. It was like a punch each time. And then at the end of that, when the judge was giving his version, or whatever they do at the end, they read out the statement from the victim impact statement. And that in itself shook us, because it contradicted everything that had gone through the courts. What she had said, that was a total lie with that victim impact statement. They should have overturned that straight away, or questioned it straight away. This is impossible. How can this girl supply her diary, saying she had written in this diary all about Brian, and yet when she read in her victim impact statement, she couldn't read because of the trauma that she'd gone through. So how on earth could she write in a diary if she couldn't read? That's impossible. So straight away, there was questions. So we had that to walk away with. And then we had to start thinking about, where do we go from there? But from the day that Brian was convicted, and then we had to go back for the sentencing, which was horrific again. It was very confusing to hear each count and what each count carried, because we don't understand the jargon of these courts. And we just said, how much have they sentenced him for? We didn't realise it was 33 years. We had no idea. Murderers get less than that. So we couldn't understand that. So we came away from the courts, and I had to be strong for the family. And I had to put my feelings to one side. And I just said, right, we're going to get through this. We are going to get through this. We've got to fight this back now. And lucky enough, Elaine found a very good barrister up in London. We went with her. We were with her all the way through. We were going to London. We were going to the visits. And the visits in themselves are traumatic because I've never been to a prison in my life. I always thought that was for, I don't know what you'd call them, low-life people and people who were guilty, not for people who were innocent. And to stand there and to be searched, bodily searched, that's, oh my God, that's such an invasion on you. It's awful. And to see him, each time you've seen him, the difference in him, what it was doing to him, how it was destroying him, and how it was destroying us. But you keep on going. So we got through each stage. We had a lot of pushbacks. But I kept saying, right, okay, we're going to take a step forward and we may take the odd step back. And each time we got through it, and we just had to be positive. But obviously it took its toll on me in the end.
Can you please tell us if this experience has changed you, and if so, in what way?
It has changed me a lot mentally. You know, I suffered from depression terribly since this has happened. And I've had to have medication through it. The doctors have been very understanding. I didn't realise that they deal with it a lot. People who have been charged of doing these sexual crimes, which they said it was unheard of years ago. It was very, very rare. But now he said it's very common. So, of course, the doctor was very understanding and he helped me through it. But as a person, I think you do get stronger. I've met a lot of very nice people through it. I've joined a lot of groups through it. I also give support through FASO. I've joined them as a volunteer, and or FASO, as we call it, FASO. And I've been to, different meetings. But yes, I'm also a supporter of people who are going through this themselves. And you do tend to distance yourself in a way. You tend to look upon it as this is a job. And I suppose it is in a way. You look at it that this helps you and it makes you stronger and it makes you determined to help others. Because the one thing that I cannot understand is how people can live with themselves when they've put an innocent man away. And they've not just destroyed that man, they've destroyed everybody around him. And it carries a huge weight with it. It's a terrible thing, and people do lose their lives through it. But also, I do feel that the justice system definitely needs looking at, not just the police. I even say as far as barristers, solicitors go, because they've got their hands out. Everything you ask them for, it's going to cost you money. Each time it's going to cost you money. But when a barrister represents you or a solicitor represents you, they should be taken on like you would take on a builder. If they don't do a good job, they should not get the full amount of pay. Some of them, I would say, not even worth being paid at all, But if they win your case, yes, they can charge you a slight bonus. If they lose that case, they should give you a huge discount because they've got to fight that case as if it's their head on that block. They can't just walk away from it every time and say, we're going to get that amount of money each time off that person. They should be paid exactly what they're worth.
Wrongful convictions have a ripple effect that extends well beyond the innocent person, as we have seen with our witnesses. They can devastate the life of family members and close friends, causing emotional, psychological, and financial hardship. Moreover, wrongful convictions can undermine trust in the criminal justice system and have lasting impact on the affected communities. It is imperative that we recognize these consequences and work together diligently to prevent and rectify wrongful convictions, to minimize their devastating effects on innocent individuals and their inner circles. I hope you have found this video compelling, and if so, please like it and consider subscribing to our channel so that we can bring you tangible testimony of the long-lasting consequences of wrongful convictions. Also, join our networking hub at spokeninjustice.net to have your say as to the future content of this channel. We look forward to usher you as we sit and rise in this unique trial.